Hello everybody and welcome back to the Spicy Sphinx. My name is Savi, and today is episode 5 of the Pandora Project, where I will be showing you the fur and the fur pattern. Here is a quick reminder of the design reference sheet, and we're just gonna jump right into it here. I do apologize because I think I either lost some footage or just forgot to record, but this is where we're starting out with the duct tape fur pattern. So this is a widely used technique to make fur patterns for fursuit heads. I like to use white duct tape to be able to see all the markings that I draw on later. I also prefer the duct tape brand, it just works better for me. I find that other brands either are too sticky or don't stick as well. And this brand just works out perfectly. It sticks very well to itself. It doesn't tear up the foam. It does, however, lift up some of the paint around the eyes, nose, and mouth, but that's probably because I didn't seal it in place. Anyways, I expected that to happen, and it's a quick and easy fix. As you can see, I am just doing one half of this head because it is symmetrical on both sides. There is no need to do the entire thing. I'd also like to explain why this episode took so long to come out. The way I have the episodes planned and broken up versus the process of me actually doing this, it doesn't really add together or match. So what I mean by that is, in this episode I'm doing the fur pattern obviously, and I'm also tracing and cutting out the pattern onto the fur. And that's essentially it for this episode. However, within this process, in between me tracing and cutting out the fur, I am shaving it and sewing it. And that doesn't come until like episode 7, and I think episode 8 or something is me actually attaching the fur. Meanwhile, after the pattern is done, I am tracing it, cutting it, shaving it, sewing it together, and attaching it to the head all at once. So in hindsight, I think I just should have made like one big fur episode and split it up into different parts because it would be really long otherwise. Nevertheless, it did get done, and this is just how I had it split up and why it took so long. I prefer not to cut out all of the pieces at once and then sew them because I'll just get really confused. Having a whole pile of cut out pieces, regardless of them being marked and labeled, would just overwhelm me. This is just how I prefer to do it, so perhaps next time I'll just make one big fur episode. is the finished duct tape job. I am a little bit disappointed that I did not get footage of me doing the ear, because I had to get a little bit creative and figure out a way to protect the paint. Even though it is covered in like a finish, a satin finish, I was worried about the duct tape destroying it. So I put some saran wrap down first and then the duct tape over top of it, and it ended up working out really well. It's important that when doing a duct tape pattern that you vary between different lengths and widths of duct tape, so that way you can surround those edges as closely and perfectly as possible. I'm a firm believer that your duct tape pattern has got to be perfect. Ensuring this will just make it so much easier when you go to trace it. So now you'll see I am using some Sharpie to create the actual pattern and where I'm going to cut it out. These are going to be the seams. I forgot to mention why I have the jaw propped open. This is really important, and it's to accommodate for the articulation. Had I made the pattern while the jaw is closed, there would be no room or enough fur for the jaw to open up. There's no stretch in this fur, so I had to create some sort of slack. I do these markings based off of where the curvature of the resin blank is and the type of fur that I'm using. I'd also base this off of fur color, but this is all white fur, so that doesn't really matter here. I'm marking them with letters and arrows as I go to indicate where they are on the resin blank and fur direction. Also, which side is left and right, so you'll see L and R everywhere. Now that the fur is actually attached to the face, I'm looking at it right now. You guys won't see it until a few more episodes. I definitely did not need this many pieces on the muzzle. I should have created darts instead of entire pieces sewn together, because this created some really bad seams. I'm not sure if it's the type of fur that I've used or if it's because it's white fur. I am really confident in my sewing style. I think I sewed everything perfectly, but the seams are pretty horrendous. You guys will see that soon. Luckily, the face is covered in markings, and I think I can get away with pulling it off, but this isn't something I'd ever probably do for a commission or offer up for sale until I figure out how to get my seams a whole lot seamless. Just remember this. I know you guys aren't going to see this in this episode. I do apologize for that, but just keep it in mind when that episode does come along. Here is a little bit of an interesting extra I decided to do. Using my phone, I took a bunch of photos of the duct tape pattern on the mask, and this is so I can reference it when it's time to sew it and put it together. However, I decided to upload all of those photos onto Procreate to my iPad, and I wanted to trace out all of the seams. The purpose of this was to in detail show my audience how intense this part of the process is. However, I actually ended up referring back to these drawings more than I referred to the photos at all, because it was just easier for me to follow the drawings. It also creates repetition in my head, so when I did start sewing, I was able to just know where the pieces went without looking at photos so often. It almost created a sort of muscle memory because of this. Here is that finished reference, all drawn up and marked out. I even labeled the type of fur that goes with each section. Now I'm going to begin the process of cutting the pieces off the head. I don't do this all at once. I do a few pieces at a time, trace them onto the fur. That way I don't lose any pieces or get confused or have them all stick together and create a big mess. As you can see here, the duct tape did pull off some of the paint. I think it's because I didn't put a finish over it, but it doesn't really matter anyways. This is super easy to touch up later. Now onto my least favorite process of the whole project. I don't know why, I just don't like doing this part. It has to be like so perfect, and it's hard to trace out duct tape when the sticky side is up. Also, never ever use red Sharpie on white fur. This was definitely a mistake on my end, and let me explain why. Luckily, the fur is great quality, so the red marker didn't show through the other side, but I have oily hands, and the oils from my hands did not go well with the red ink of the Sharpie when I started sewing these pieces together. So there are some traces of pink on the fur side of the head. Luckily though, I think I can get away with this. It's very subtle, and most of this head is going to be painted over with. If the design was solid white, I'd be pretty screwed. I'd have to redo it. But like I said, it's gonna be painted or airbrushed mostly blue with tons of black markings. Ultimately, I just let it go. This is not a commission, this is a piece for me. It's a learning process, and now I know to just not use red Sharpie with white fur. With that being said, I don't know what Sharpie color I'd use in the future with this. Perhaps blue because there's a lot of blue markings, or silver. So this is really good quality fur from Howell's Fabric. I was able to get all the pieces cut out with an X-Acto knife. The edges didn't get frayed or do anything weird like that. You just need a really sharp knife. Although the fur was easy to cut out, I did change blades like once or twice during this process. Over the next several clips, you're gonna see me coming back to the fur, folding it up, unfolding it, and this is because I am sewing in between all of this. The plans I had, the way I split all of this up, ultimately made it very easy for me. I did the right side of the face, and then I did the left side of the face. I sewed that together. I did the bottom jaw, and then I started doing the cheeks on both sides, as well as the ears on both sides. And then I started doing the neck. The face, the cheeks, the jaw, the neck on the front, and the sides were all one piece when I attached it to the mask. And I'll go much more in depth into this when we get to the episode of me actually attaching the fur. We are nearing the end of this episode here. It doesn't have a proper ending because I had nothing really to show for the ending of this episode. What I mean is, at this point that you're seeing in the video, it's mostly all sewn together and attached to the head, but I didn't want to give it away yet. It's not that episode yet. So I am sorry, you guys will just have to wait to see it all come together soon. With all of this being said and done, I will tell you that the next episode is the tail and footpaw design. It'll be a shorter episode. But episodes 7 and 8 will be sewing, shaving, and attaching the fur, and you'll finally be able to see why it has taken me so long to produce these episodes. Of course, you guys don't have to wait around on my YouTube content to see the progress so far. I will be posting progress photos on my Instagram and Facebook. At this point of me making this episode and uploading this video, the fur is 95% attached and 95% sewn. And Pandora is looking awesome. She is really coming together. If you don't want to wait, just head over to those pages and take a look and you'll see what you're in for. Anyways, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being here and supporting the process. Be sure to stay tuned for episode 6, that'll come soon, where I'll be designing the footpaws and the tail. I hope everybody has the best day, and I will see you all here soon.